So from the point of diagnosis, let's say the family does get some information about autism, and so how accessible are services for Black families? Thinking like schools in underserved areas might not have the appropriate resources to help kids.
Very minimal. They're very minimal in my state. Because even in our state, like you can only get the diagnosis through a developmental psychologist. Even if your pediatrician attempts to get the diagnosis, it's a temporary, it's not a permanent diagnosis because they're unable to do the additional testing like your ADOS and your IQ testing and all the rest of those, your SSR. So it's difficult for them because they can't even get to the diagnostician. That person is put up. That is a field that's just not a lot of people in. So, and then a lot of those specialties only accept insurance. They're not private pay, and if they were private pay, their rate would be a lot per test that's needed because there's so many tests needed to confirm an autism diagnosis. Some between 5 to 7 different diagnostic tools outside of just the interview process. So the time, to get all those tests done is 3 to 4 hours of time that needs to be done. Is there one in your local area? So it's not readily available for the child to even initially get the diagnosis, which would afford them the opportunity for the care that comes along with it, like the IEPs and 504s that come with it.
Assuming that it's even the right diagnosis, right? Like that it's not just called oppositional defiance or something.
Yes.
Looking at the person's skin color and just assuming behaviors because of that.
Right. Which those diagnoses take less diagnostic testing. And so many kids immediately get those oppositional defiance and conduct disorders because it's just one, test. It doesn't require a developmental psychologist. So the level of specialty needing to get it is so much easier to get those diagnoses. For African American children, primarily males.
I also feel like there is still a stigma attached to when a little Black kid acts up in class and they're just the bad kid versus looking at what other factors may be playing into this child's behavior. I haven't necessarily experienced it firsthand, but it's kind of experienced it firsthand, meaning seen it firsthand. It's just been conversations that I may have overheard that really isn't meeting the family or the teacher's need. It's just, it's being put out there into the universe, but then nothing is being done about it. We clearly know there's a problem. So what can we do about it versus just talking about it or overhearing conversations? And I think, parents, when they do get the chance to get whatever diagnosis they have, they may be sent home with a pamphlet or a list of, clinics or, companies that can potentially help, but there's no one there to guide them through the process. And I think it was something like this, someone's hand does need to be held and they do need to be walked through the steps because it's a lot of information in those evaluations and in the diagnosis. And it's terminology being used that it's hard to understand. Even sometimes I'm like, okay, time out. Let me go Google this part to make sure that I'm understanding this right.
But there's the danger in Googling too.
And then it's
because then you might find out the horror stories of ABA.
Yes.
And then just be turned away completely.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think as a whole, there just needs to be a push for not only acceptance, awareness, resources, and letting people know, really, no matter what color you are, because I know we're specifically talking about, Black Americans and sometimes the socioeconomic status and, where they're living, but there's also white families in those situations. There's other people of color in those situations that aren't afforded the opportunity to get the best resources available or the best services available. So it's we need to figure out a way to step into those areas and provide them with the best resources, because they're just as deserving as anyone else.
You've been watching Autism Knows No Borders. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what you think in the comments section. Click here to watch this interview in its entirety. You can also find us on your favorite podcast app. Tune in each week for engaging conversations of how people across the globe are inspiring change and building community. Thanks for watching. Take care.